What is going on with this market? You would think with the political uncertainty and the whole interest rates going up and Iran situation, that the housing market would be slowing down. Because if you've watched any of my previous videos, you know I said the spring market is picking up sooner than usual. So today I'm going to give you a look at where we're sitting and if the Iran conflict has had any sort of slowdown on what we're seeing in this spring market here in Utah. So let's jump right into it. Okay, so first things first, let's talk about how we ended February 2026 for Salt Lake and Utah counties. Now, this is all home types as reported to utahrealestate.com. So this could be a condo, it could be a mobile home, it could be a single family house, whatever. All housing types for Salt Lake and Utah County. We actually had about a $20,000 decrease in the average sales price for February 2026 compared to January 2026. So we finished February at $618,000 for an average sold price in the two counties. And that was down from January, like I said, where we finished at $636,000 average sales price. Now, we did see our average days on market tick up just a little bit, not a ton. It went up by 2 days to 73 days average on the market for February. But we also had more home sales in February 2026 than we saw in January. So that was an increase of almost 300 more sales. We finished at 1,498 sales for February 2026. But we're also seeing more inventory coming on the market in 2026 than we've seen in previous years. So I'm going to put this graph up and you'll notice that March is in red. That's because the month of March is not over. So this is just through the morning of March 11th when I pulled this data. But you'll see here, dating back to 2022 for January and February, we already have more listings these 2 months. Most people are going to say that's great news. It means it's shifting to more of a buyer's market. We can be pickier. The days on market is going up, sales price is going down. But don't jump to that conclusion quite yet. Let's finish looking at these numbers. Now, you'll see here on this graph, there's a chart and a graph that our under contracts are also up. Now, 2022 was unprecedented. So, not in 22, but for the previous 3 years, 23, 24, and 25, we had less under contract listings in January and February than we are seeing already this year in 2026. Okay, I want to jump and talk a little bit about our supply of inventory. Now, looking at utahrealestate.com for Salt Lake and Utah counties, we have just over a 5-month supply of homes that are active or under contract currently on the MLS compared to what we're selling. So typically when you look at, is this a buyer's market, a seller's market? What is it? Typically speaking, they say a 4 to 6 month supply means it's a balanced market. But what most people are not looking at and reporting on is breaking it down further. So I know from just personal experience with my buyers that I have been seeing townhouses sitting a lot longer on the market and it just seems slower. So I broke down the absorption rate based on a single family home, a townhouse, or a condo sale. So interestingly enough, single family homes, we have a 4.6 month supply of single family homes in Salt Lake and Utah County. So you are leaning a little bit more towards a seller's market with that type of single family home. But when you jump over to townhouses, we have almost a 6.5 month supply of townhouses on the market, active or under contract compared to what we sell. This is called our absorption rate. And condos, it jumps even more to 6.87 month supply. So for townhouses and condos, we have tipped slightly over into a buyer's market. And seeing it firsthand with clients as I'm out in the market looking at homes, I would 100% agree with what those numbers are showing, that it is tilting more towards a buyer's market for townhouses and condos. And single family homes, I mean, January and February were a nightmare for some of my single family people. Like, we are seeing multiple offers again in some housing markets that are priced well for good properties, going over asking price. Like, we're kind of seeing some crazy stuff. Not a ton, but just a little bit. So it's quite the switch from townhouses and condos. So if you are a first-time home buyer going into the market, that's where you're going to probably find your best deals, and you're going to have the most negotiating power, because there is so much inventory and so much competition with townhouses and condos that if somebody really needs to sell, they're going to be more likely to work with you, maybe get some closing costs for an interest rate buy down, whatever you want to do. You're generally going to have more buying power with a townhouse or condo right now, being more of a buyer's market than just single family homes. So when you're looking at these reports, like I said, they're not breaking it down by housing type. And I think that's really important to know and understand based on the market that you're in. So we can talk about it as a state, we can talk about it as a country, but just knowing from experience where we're at in this market, we are seeing that townhouse and condo sales are slower. Okay, and then finally, let's talk about sold listings. You're gonna see here on this graph that you can just barely see the little purple bar for 2026. And you're really kind of right in line with the last 3 years between 2023 and 2025 for sold listings. It's going to be really interesting to see how March finishes out though, because we're barely kind of teetering on, are we going to break even, or are we going to be fewer homes? With these interest rates going up, it's always hard to tell it, this early in the month what's going to happen. But looking at our under contracts, it doesn't look like home sales are slowing down despite the interest rates climbing back up and the war in Iran. So anyways, if you're thinking about making a real estate move, I'd love to connect with you. Shoot me a text or give me a call. That is the best way to reach me. But as always, make it a great day.